Hello, my name is Elise Derusha. I will be in your upper right hand corner for the duration of the presentation, and I chose Aruba for my project, and I will be going through the history of Aruba. So first, I wanted to start off with a basic timeline. The first inhabitants were the Quechua Indians of the Arawak tribe from Venezuela. They came here around 2500 BC. They lived around Palm Beach, which is in the upper left-hand corner of the map. It was also known as Malmonk Beach. In the ceramic period, which was 1000 to 1515 AD, they broke into five large villages. Um, During this time, in 1499, Alonso de Ojeda discovered Aruba. In 1513, the Spaniards enslaved many of the Quechua Indians and sent some of them to Hispaniola to work on the plantation and the mines as well. 2 years later, they had some of them come back and take care of cattle and breed horses. The Spanish didn't think that the land was good enough to grow crops because it was so dry. It's in the 80s usually, and there's not a lot of rainfall, but there is a strong connection to the Caribbean Sea, as you can see all around, which made it attractive to the Spanish. The Spanish crown made Alonso the governor, and they remained in control for 137 years. In 1636, the Dutch occupied, and this was during the 80-Year War with Spain, because they wanted to protect their salt supply from South American mainland and ensure a naval base in the Caribbean. And again, it was good because the Caribbean Sea had great transportation, where they shipped cattle, and they had the Quechua Indians build farms, raise the cattle to eat, and for that shipment as well. In 1816, the Netherlands occupied and became officially a part of the Netherlands Antilles in 1845. Slaves never exceeded 21% of the population, and slavery was abolished in 1863. And in the 1920s, the oil industry came to life and brought rapid modernization and immigration of industrial laborers, merchants, and civil servants from the Caribbean, Europe, Asia, and the Americas. In 1986, Aruba seceded from the Netherlands Antilles. This was because of uh, Bedico Crows, who was a political activist and fought long and hard for this secession from the Antilles. Uh, so Aruba wanted full independence from the Netherlands, but in 1990 they changed their decision and postponed it. In 1995, the petition was for independence was completely repealed. So today, they remained a country of the Netherlands and are still controlled by the kingdom, but the Arubian government controls internal affairs. It's widely diverse. There's 90 nationalities, over 100,000 residents. There's four main languages: Dutch, Papiamento, which was the native language, English, and Spanish. High tourism and their great education system leads to high employment rate as well, and they have a strong passion and love for their culture. Next, we'll go into more deep of the languages. So the mother tongue is the Papiamento, which is an Afro-Portuguese Creole language. The roots came about in the 16th century, developed in the interaction of various native languages of slaves in that period. Most of these slaves were African origin who worked underneath Portuguese masters. Schools on the island started teaching Papiamento in 1995, and the language attained official status in 2003. It is the most important marker of Arubian identity. Also important markers of Arubian identity are the Dutch flag, which symbolizes unity, the national anthem, and the coat of arms. Dutch is the official language while not many people use it as their first language. The oil industry, tourism, and subsequent migration brought English and Spanish to the island, which are the second and third most spoken languages. I think it's so interesting how diverse Aruba is and how intelligent people are to know up to four languages, um, and how diverse they are, but also like to keep their roots. And it reminds me of the Some Girls documentary by Raquel Sapita, and how they all found their different nationalities, but they all had that one connection with the Dominican Republic. So I just think it is so interesting how diverse, but they all still have that one thing in common, which is their culture. Next, we'll go into the education, which is the Dutch education system. In 1988, uh, Aruba wanted to renovate it and modernize and Arubanize um, the Dutch oriented system. Schools on the island started teaching Papiamento in 1995, and the language attained official status in '03, like I said before. English has the status of an international language and is taught in fourth grade, and Spanish is taught in fifth grade. And in the American education system, we know, or we are taught one language. I just think that is also insane how they are actually taught this at such a and uh, young age, that they can take all this in at the right time. It's hard to learn all these languages when you're older. And this brings me to my educational flaw, which I like to call it. The Dutch language, as I said, is spoken by a very tiny percentage of the islanders, use it as their first language. And this brings me to why I chose Aruba for this project. I feel that the American education system is flawed, but in a different way than the Dutch education is. And this is the Dutch education, I believe, is flawed because so little people speak that language, but the system is taught in Dutch. So I think that is a little odd. So I feel that our American education system is so one-sided and concrete, especially revolving around history. So it leads back to the Michael Rolfe Trullet, Power in Our Story. The first chapter, when he's talking of truth and history, specifically found the constructivist dilemma interesting, and there's the quote on the screen. It can point to hundreds of stories that illustrate its general claim that narratives are produced. It cannot give a full account of the production of any single narrative. So it's basically saying that there are so many sides to a story or a moment in time, and the details or a whole story can be lost or changed throughout time. That's why I wanted to start with the basic history of Aruba, of a country I don't know anything about. I've never been there. And I also didn't read any narratives. I didn't want a different perspective. I wanted to just make my own perspective, my own point of view, and just figure out without emotion what are the facts. Um, and then later on, I can figure out, dive deeper into that. So it's my opportunity to learn more history outside of the United States and get a new perspective, my own perspective, instead of it being forced upon me. I want to take out of this presentation beyond this classroom is how a different perspective can tell a whole different story, and going beyond your comfort zone or whatever you're used to can allow you to gain a whole new experience. But there are some stories and traditions that have been carrying out on the same for decades. And this is when we go into creative production and traditions. This is one of my favorites. I love traditions. So there are many annual and even weekly traditions and festivals in Aruba. First, I'll start with the New Year's Day, which is Donda. It's a group of 5 to 6 people go around and carol door to door and just wish people happiness and success for the new year. On January 25th, Arubians celebrate Dia de Bedico, which honors the father of the nation, Bedico Crows, who I told you before was the political advocate that led to the separation, or when they wanted independence from the Netherlands. So he helped lead to that. It involves a special flag ceremony, culinary festival, sales of goods, of local goods, a cultural show featuring dances and folk tales, everything. On June 24th, Arubians observe Dara Gaia. It's a folk festival celebrated on the Nativity of St. John the Baptist. And I'll get into religion in just a moment. It's a Catholic symbolism reflecting the influences of the Arawak natives and Spanish missionaries on the island. So, again, that's the passion and love for their culture. Uh, right in the bottom right hand corner is the organ box. It's the Aha di Orgel. It's a traditional music instrument played during national holidays and celebrations and weddings. And it's like a music box. You crank it, and the little hammers hit the barrels. What I forgot to say about the Daragai festival, that's the middle picture. What they do is someone goes around blindfolded and uses a long pole. We're given 3 tries to find a rooster and decapitate it. And that is a very traditional way. A more humane way, people use a flag to try to find a rooster. And they just leave it at that. But I thought that was pretty interesting as well. And also, every Tuesday evening of the year, rain or shine, the Bon Beni Festival is another folk festival or celebration that happens every week. Our last slide is religion and magic. So less than 90% of Aruba is Roman Catholic. Less than 3% is Dutch Reformed Lutheran Protestantism. Um, so death and afterlife opinions follow the Christian doctrine, and customary mourning period is 8 days, also known as ocho dias, which is how long the wake is after passing of a loved one. And I thought this was also interesting as well. On the last night, the altar is taken down, chairs are flipped over, and windows are open to let the spirit fly out, so it's not stuck in the house. Towards the magic portion, Brua is a supernatural term that includes magic, fortune telling, healing, and assumptions about both good and evil. It's conducted by a practitioner of Brua and can be applied both beneficially, and maliciously. So it's often not confirmed because of the low social esteem attached to it. And there's also traditional healing methods. This is called Papamento Remedy de Tira, and they use herbs, amulets, and so on, and are practiced by a healer. And some of the methods are actually legally forbidden, which I thought was very interesting. So that is it. These are my sources. And I am just really grateful that I got this opportunity to learn so much about something I've never really got the opportunity to dive into. And that is all. Thank you.